Good morning. Happy Mother's Day to all. Welcome to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington. My name is Barb Eglinton. I am the president of the executive board here. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all visitors today. And if you're visiting us for the first time and you feel comfortable, we invite you to stand and tell us your name and how you found out about us. We'd like to meet you. Any brave souls? Oh. All right. Well, please join us for coffee and conversation downstairs in Adams Hall after the service. If you want to know more about the church, a member of the membership committee will be at the visitors table to answer any questions. All right. During the service, we do have supervised nursery for babies and toddlers and religious education for children and youth. You can see Kim Duchesne if you have questions about that program. And if you need to leave the meeting house at any time, we do stream the service in 2 other locations at the church, and the ushers can show you where those are. And now, before announcements, I have some words called Together in Love. Let us be together. Let us be together in love, in respect, in honor, in appreciation, in wonder, in joy. Let us be together in harmony. Let us be together in unity, with peace, with hope, with charity, with compassion, with justice, with mercy. Let us be together with gladness for all that makes us human, striving to be and become more than we are, to become more human, more merciful, justice-seeking, and loving. And I just want to share that as I was sitting up here before the service started, listening to the din of all the conversation and the music and the laughter, it was just delightful, and it reminded me that community is our purpose, and it was just nice. All right, I have a couple announcements, and then I'm going to invite Anne Marie up. These are some things that I remembered. This coming Saturday, is the Butterfly, which is a takeoff of the Moth, if you're familiar with that. It's a true story. Isn't it this Friday? Friday, thank you. Your mom said it. Your mom knows. So at 7 o'clock? Okay, here. So, and are all the storytellers lined up, ready to tell their stories? Okay. All right, so come and... Yes. All right, and I want to thank all the crop walkers who walked last Sunday, and if you haven't paid them and you pledged, find a walker and pay your pledge. And thank you for everyone that donated to the PEEP, who made a PEEP diorama and who donated. It made over $100 for the Detroit Little Library, so thank you for that. Now I'd like to invite Anne Marie Gephardt for an announcement about social justice.
Good morning. Thank you. The Social Justice Committee is going to be having a housewarming party for young women that are going to be moving out of the homeless shelter at Alternatives for Girls in Detroit. It will be Sunday, June 4th, after service in Adams Hall. There'll be lots of food and fun, and those that would like to can bring a gift. And we're going to get a wish list from Alternatives from Girls this week, and we'll post it. So there'll be suggestions for things that they will need. And also after service today, anyone that still would like to buy a ticket for the Butterfly on Friday, we'll be downstairs selling those tickets. They're $5. Thanks.
Any other announcements? If you haven't already, please silence your cell phone. And please read with me the unison chalice lighting on the bottom of page 2 of your order of service. Okay. Our bright chalice flame calls us to gather together on this bright spring morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we practice living each day with compassion, justice, love, equality, and dignity for all. May our chalice flame connect our hearts and memories to those in our lives that have guided us, taught us, and cared for us. Now we will have the Litany of Gathering. Called Boundless Goodwill from the Metta Sutta Buddhist Discourse. Let us cultivate boundless goodwill.
Let us not deceive another or despise any being in any state.
Let none in anger or ill will wish another harm.
Even as a mother watches over her child, so with boundless mind should one cherish all living beings.
Radiating friendliness over the whole world. And now I'll invite Kim Duchesne up for the Children's Chalice Lighting.
And I'd like to invite all the kids up front and have a seat on the steps. Maybe next time. Oh, look at your shirt, Dante. Is that ever cool? Wow. So, a long time ago, in the year 1386, in a galaxy far, far away, yes, a woman in Germany named Julian of Norwich, she used to have a special booth out in the mall. And they didn't have malls the way we have malls, but they had a marketplace where everybody would come and buy their fruits and vegetables or talk with one another, or sometimes they would gossip about each other. And sometimes they would talk about each other, you know, like say, did you know Dante wore a shirt with Mom on it to church the other day? Didn't that look cool? Or did you know that today is Mother's Day and so all the moms are trying to figure out how to take a nap today? And so this lady would stand.
I love Mother's Day.
Then, Dante, you're going to like this. So this lady would have a little booth, and it was kind of like Lucy from Peanuts. She'd have a little booth, and she was a very spiritual lady, and you're just going to have to, this is Om. This is the universal sound. Dante, Om. Om. Let's everybody close their eyes for a minute and say, Om. One more time. Om. One more time and end it in M and just keep going. Only M. Om. So Julian of Norwich would be in her Om box, and people would come by and they would tell her their problems. So, Dexter, right? Do you have any problems you would like to share with Julian of Norwich? If you do, you can pick up the other side and tell me. So, pick up the other side. You don't have any problems? Dante, do you have any problems?
No, wait, I have a problem.
All right. Pick it up. Hello, Dante. How are you today?
I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hello. That's my problem, getting the two D's mixed up. Yes. Hi, Dexter.
I have a problem. I lost my toys, my part of my toy. 3 parts I lost.
Okay. Wait, no, stay here. Stay here, because you came here because you want some help and you want some advice. So my advice, not necessarily from 1386, but is to always have a Ziploc bag with you and put all the parts of your toy in it from now on. Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have a problem up here? All right, lift that up. Hi, Dante, what's your problem?
Dad, my
Okay. You know, my advice for you is don't get attached to one little minion because there will always be more minions later. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Do you have a problem? No? No? How about you, Kim? Do you have a problem?
I do not have a problem.
Oh, that's so great.
I mean, I have a problem. But
Yeah. We only have a
Kim
short
is crazy,
time.
so.
Yeah, we can have a short time. So Julian, listen, you guys. Julian of Norwich would help anybody that came by, and she wouldn't even charge any money. And in the springtime was a special good time because she could come out in her little booth, and the weather was good, and the daffodils would bloom. And so I want you to remember that all the moms and the grandmas and the friends out there are like Julian of Norwich. And so if you need to talk to them about your problems, they won't make you look inside of a cardboard box that's covered with a tablecloth, but they will be available to you like Julian of Norwich. Yeah, I know. Wasn't that a good idea? I was so impressed when I thought of it. Yeah. So we're going to sing the song in your order service, everyone, as you go off to Sunday school. So and you can listen to the song, and you might be able to read some of those words because they're kind of easy.
Norwich and the people come and go. Here by the Tower of Julian I tell them what I know. Ring out bells of Norwich and let the winter come and go. All shall be well again, I know. Love like the yellow daffodil is coming through the snow. Love like the yellow daffodil is Lord of all I know. Ring out bells of Norwich and let the winter come and go. All shall be well again, I know. Ring for the yellow daffodil, the flower in the snow. Ring for the yellow daffodil and tell them what I know. Ring out bells of Norwich and let the winter come and go. All shall be well again, I know. Now shall be well, I'm telling you, let the winter come and go. All shall be well again, I know.
And now we'll have a membership moment from Bud Baggett and Paul Denowitz, so please come up.
Good morning. My name's Paul Denowitz, and I'm on the membership committee. And once a month, we have kind of instituted something that we have grown to enjoy. Is one of our members tells of their pathway from the church and what brought them and what makes them be a part of the community. So today we have a longtime member, Bud Baggett, who's going to share a bit of his journey. So thank you, Bud.
Only got 30 or 40 pages, so. Back in the 60s, Dot listened to a radio program led by Bob Eddy, the minister of the Universalist Church of Farmington. She liked what he said, so she felt that we should attend the church. I worked 6 days a week, so spending my day in church wasn't something that I cared to do. But I did attend several services and liked what I heard. So when a coming sermon sounded good to me, we would attend. Soon Bob Eddy became the talk of Farmington. It seemed that he had written a paper years ago that stated young people should live together before marriage to learn what marriage would be like. I heard his name bandied about everywhere, a minister suggesting such a thing. After a few years, they moved the church to this location, which was closer to our home, so we attended more often. Eventually, Bob Eddy left the church, and we got a new minister. I found several things in one of his sermons that I objected to. So the next Sunday, I told him my objections. He thanked me for being so frank with him. I couldn't ask for a better situation than that, so I started attending regularly just to keep the minister on track. As we became more comfortable, we began attending potlucks, going to dinners at the members' homes, and began to fit in. It wasn't long that 80% of our social life revolved around the church and the people in the church. Dot had signed the book the first couple of years, but I, not being a joiner, did not sign for the next 10, and had not signed till 10 years later. This church and its people in it have become our family. We couldn't ask for a better, more loving place. If I wasn't able to attend this church on Sundays, it would be one of the saddest things in my life.
As Unitarian Universalists, we come with a variety of diverse beliefs, and we come together, as Barb said this morning, because of our love of community. I think it's a statement of synchronicity, Bud, that this morning, unbeknownst to me that you were going to give a membership moment, that we have swans on the cover, because Bud and Dot live on the lake, and they have beautiful families of swans that come back and forth to visit.
This morning there were 5 little swans in Maryville.
So it's like there was a greater plan.
I saw this and I thought, oh my God, that was...
I know, it's just perfect. So I would like to offer that if you are a first-time visitor, please consider yourself our guest as we take this morning's offering. The offering goes to support the various programs of the church, including part of our budget. Most of our members send in their pledges in other ways. We appreciate any contributions that you're able to give for the work of the church in the outside of these walls, as well as for our inside community. And I would encourage you, is the newborn baby, are those words in the order service too? On page 6, Diana Munch goes to the extra degree of offering the words for music almost every week, and we are just so honored that her sister Linda could sing for us today, and sometimes reading the words helps to make that experience fuller. Thank you.
Mercy
technically challenged. As we move into a space and time to acknowledge joys and concerns, this morning I am going to light 2 special candles. This congregation has suffered a double loss this week, and it's very difficult for us to acknowledge and say goodbye to George Ramsey, who is a longtime member of this congregation. He and Joan echo the words, I think, that Bud shared today. They've been part of this congregation for many years. And George died peacefully in his sleep last week. His memorial service will be next Sunday at 2 o'clock here in this meeting house. So this is for George. And this candle is for Mike Dunaway, who lost his battle with cancer 2 nights ago. And his memorial service is going to be on Wednesday at noon, and we will be e-blasting the information. It's going to be held at a funeral home near White Lake. And so if you could follow the sound of these tingsha bells that are used in Tibet for a sacred time, and have a moment of silence for 2 of our members. As George and Mike both took their final journeys, they were surrounded by remarkable friends and remarkable families. This community has held those 2 men in their hearts and spirits and worked with them and laughed with them and enjoyed many years of companionship with them. Each of us in this room has no idea how our laughter, our words, our questions, and even our critiques touch other people, knowing that they are connected to someone that's bigger than just themselves alone. May their journeys to the unknown be peaceful. May their families find the peace that they need during this grand time of loss. So be it. So I will start another candle so we can make a transition for some of the joys and some of the sorrows that you may have if you would like to come up and acknowledge them up here and introduce yourselves. So I'm just going to light this candle for all the moms and those people that have cared for us in those maternal ways. And most importantly, for all of us having the patience to live life as it changes and morphs and transitions occur. We listen to the beautiful words that Linda sings and, holding the babies tight, and some of us still have babies, right, George, in the back? Babies to keep you up at night. And now we don't have any babies in our family. We only have teenagers, and you have to put them on your schedule and their schedule. And then if something else better comes up, you're off the schedule. But you know that the love and the caring that you gave them as they were growing up is important. So this is for all of those motherly and grandmotherly transitions. So I invite you to come up if you have something special that you'd like to point out to us to hold in the congregation's consciousness.
I have a joy that my daughter got a summer job. She's a biology major and she has not found a job in her field, but so she'll be working this summer in Chicago looking for and counting endangered green snakes. So she's coming home on Tuesday to get a car so she can drive out to all of the locations. So that's a joy for my husband and I. That she's finally getting a job in her field, and hopefully it will lead to more. And also next weekend, my nephew is at the Naval Academy, and he will be wrapping up his first year, and I will be with my sister attending a ceremony called the Herndon to commemorate the end of their first year. And I also want to light a candle for another nephew who's suffering with mental illness, and so I'm lighting a candle for my sister and the whole family.
Maybe your nephew will meet Sean Spicer since he's going back to do some paperwork. Life is filled with paradox. There's the happy and the sad and the sorrowful and the joys, and they all seem to weave and happen simultaneously. May each of you, with your smiles and your intellect and your consciousness, bring joy where you go today, bring comfort and bring peace, as sometimes that requires taking a pause before we talk and walk, but we can do it. This is for all the joys and concerns that have gone unmentioned. Our hymn is number 8. You can remain seated if you'd like. It's a very quiet hymn. And it has some echoes from our history from Norbert Chopik, who also wrote the words for Flower Communion that acknowledges the diversity in our congregations. Number 8. I'd like to open with some words from Reverend Mark Bellatini. He wrote a laud for life. O gift of life, I open you today when, like every day, I can be born anew in the recognition that life is and that I know it's for me. I tear off all the wrappers of expectation around this day and rip off the ribbon of any resentment. And then I unfold the box and find therein the best memories of my childhood. That dark crow, my deep sorrows, those years that were filled with prayers as I moved on through education, my explorations of things outside and inside of my soul. My parenting, my joy, my grief, new marriages, failed marriages, family, friends gathering round, and poets gathering round to give word as tribute. So now we hold the sun of our life, the sun that shines in and peeks through the windows today like a handful of jewels blessed with many facets, almost like prisms, a light so bright that if there are any cracks in the jewel, they will also turn into colors and burst of energy. So Prism perspectives on mothers and motherhood. I have to remind all of you that this is Freedom of the Pulpit, and so what you're going to hear is my perspective. It might not be exactly your perspective, but hopefully it will give you an opportunity to think about what your perspectives on your own mothers or mothering, or what should have or could have or might have happened. Our mothers have played amazing roles in our lives. Each relationship is unique and individual. There are some general expectations of the roles and characteristics of mothers that are expected in our society. Some of you here are fortunate to still have time to readjust your perspective on your mother, to benefit both of you, and to have a healthy and respectful adult relationship. I wish you good luck. For those of you who have lost your mother, or for those of us who have lost our mothers, hopefully we can gain some new insights that might provide additional understanding to those years that relationships with our mothers shifted and morphed and sometimes seem to be out of our control. Often our mother's opinions get multiplied beyond realistic measure because she was so central to our identity. Actually, her hopes and dreams and guidance on our behalf never seemed to waver. Many of us have been both burdened and blessed with mothers that gave direction well into our adult years. And so Florida Scott Maxwell writes these words: "A mother's love for her children, even her inability to let them be, is because she's under this painful law that the life that passed through her must be brought to fruition. No matter how old a mother is, she watches her middle-aged children for additional signs of improvement. It could not be otherwise, for she is impelled to know that the seeds of value sown in her have been winnowed. She never outgrows that burden of love, and to that end, she carries the weight of hope for those she bore. Oddly, very oddly, she is forever surprised and even faintly wronged that her sons and daughters are just people. For many mothers, hope and help and expect their newborn child will make the world better, will somehow be a redeemer. Perhaps they are right, and they can believe that the rare quality they glimpsed in that child is active and burdened on through into adulthood with hope." 1 year after I had had one of those long and difficult discussions with my own mother, I don't know if any of you went through this, but I can see the setting now. My mother lived up north and I lived here, and so the halfway point was beautiful Frankenmuth, Michigan, the vegetarian's nightmare. And we would meet to have a family dinner of buttered noodles, mashed potatoes, and other carb-loaded buttery delights while everybody else ate chicken. And then I would spring these conversations on my mother because, of course, as any normal, full, well-blooded American should do in your 20s, you're in therapy trying to figure out why you are and aren't the person that you could be. And of course, in your 20s, there's only one good reason you're not the person that you should be. And you're having dinner with them in Frankenmuth. So why not take them aside and sit on a bench in the lower level, that's so private with all the other tourists going by, and charge them with whatever was the most recent thing that they did wrong, or maybe draw something from the past. Like, why didn't you keep me in piano lessons? So that's the kind of thing hopefully we get over in our 20s. But that conversation, the last conversation that we had that was that heated, she sent me a card, and in the card she signed it, "Your mother, no more and no less." Those words echo in simplicity and complexity. Our mothers are our mothers, nothing more and nothing less. But what does that really mean? I think a metaphor is helpful here. And so today we have Kuan Yin in the front of our focal point here, and she's the goddess of compassion in the Buddhist tradition. And this Kuan Yin has 3 faces if you spun her around, which we're not going to do because it's painful to touch Kuan Yin for some reason. You'll see these little points here, so that she does. All the same faces, but different characteristics. So this Kuan Yin, let's think of her as all of our mothers. She has a side that is loving, compassionate nurturer. Then she has a side that is disciplinary judge, jury, and guide. And then she has that side that every so often you get to see, which is happy, hospitable hostess, which usually shows up after the whole family has been sent into turmoil, making sure the entire house and the lawn and everything is presentable for company. And then once the company gets there, the stress just melts away, and in walks our mother, the happy, hospitable hostess. Each of us have gone through many stages of growth on our own, the development that you've gone through in your lives. Think of yourself as this. I don't know, someday we'll have this visual, and I'll be able to do this holographically. But just imagine that Kuan Yin is on a Lazy Susan. And then this Lazy Susan extends like this. And we're in one of the compartments of the Lazy Susan. And the Lazy Susan moves around. And so, this one says patience, and, so we see different sides of our mother. So, some of you that are wired similarly to me, I apologize for that. But you will understand what I'm trying to get through in this point. As you move around in that circular motion, it's like taking a ride on this giant Lazy Susan. And you hope for, as you gaze up into your mother's countenance, that you're going to get the response that you need at any particular time in your life. So then we take Erik Erikson, developmental psychologist, who identifies 7 stages that range from birth to 65 and beyond. And we move through those stages, hopefully not repeating them too often, but we mature and we gather confidence and independence along the way. There's many things alone if you're lucky, and they do not accomplish these tasks successfully. They will learn to doubt their own abilities. So in those first 2 stages, we need our mother's compassion and care. And so it's a beautiful thing. It's what today's all about, because all the cards show how easy that is between the ages of 0 and 3 to look perfect and like a Madonna, all calm, caring for your children. I'm glad that you all appreciate sarcasm. So the next stage, 3, is initiative versus guilt. 3 to 5 years old. During that stage, the children learn to plan their own activities within the parents' guidelines. This was written long ago, before you had flashing screens. I wish you all luck. If the children do not learn those tasks, then they develop guilt over their own misbehavior. And you could use this in so many ways in relationship to religion, but today we're just going to stay with mothers. So then you move into the ages of 5 to 11, industry versus inferiority. In this stage, the children learn to meet the demands of parents and teachers and then their peers. They learn to clean their rooms, do their homework, ride a bike, etc. And they learn that effort leads to success. Please, if you have not read my newsletter article for May, please revisit that. It's in your computers or in your mailboxes. Somebody raise their hand and tell me what the topic of that newsletter is so that you will restore my faith in this church. It was about doing how many, not see? Now I don't even have to ask. I see people grabbing for their cell phones. It was about making your bed. Please read that article again and again because it's important and it relates to industry, this important stage. And then we move into identity versus role confusion, the stage that the child develops their identity. Yikes. This is a very, very trying stage. We need our mothers to be disciplinary judges and juries and guides. We need them to judge us. We need them to critique us and move them in a direction. And then you get into intimacy and isolation from ages 18 to 40. That's a big stretch. And these are usually some of the years that you actually step out of yourself and develop a relationship with a partner. And then at the end, it's generating new life from 40 to 65 and beyond, or stagnation. And during that adult stage, the person contributes to future generations. So when we go back to isolation and intimacy, that's when we need our mothers to support us, but also to be kind of the open life of the party, let our friends come in and out and be generous with time and space. And then at the very end, what do we need with our integrity and despair? Again, we need what we needed in the beginning, someone that is compassionate. So we move through all those stages and we look up at our mother and we hope that they are going to respond to us just the way we need to be responded to. But guess what? Mothers have their own identities and lives in addition to raising us, the gall. She is not there just to meet our needs. As David White says, he's a wonderful poet, he says, it might be surprising for you to find that all of our loved ones were not created only to be the supporting cast in your personal play. All women are not automatically cut out to be a cross between Betty Crocker, Martha Stewart, and Oprah. They have their own distinctive personalities. Before you were born, they had distinctive personalities, relationships, careers. Sometimes motherhood takes a direct assault on their identities. Maya Angelou wrote in this poem, Mother, a cradle to hold me. Mother, during those early dearest days, I did not dream you had a larger life which included me among your other concerns. For I had a life which was only you. Time passed steadily and drew us apart. I was unwilling. I feared if I let you go, you would leave me eternally. You smiled at my fears, saying, I could not stay in your lap forever, that one day you would have to stand. And then I went on and I loved you even during those years when you knew nothing and I knew everything. And I loved you still, condescendingly, of course, from a high perch of teenage wisdom. I spoke sharply to you often because you were slow to understand. I grew older and was stunned to find out how much knowledge you had gleaned, and so quickly. And so maybe our mothers and those of us that were mothers and our mothers have actually attempted to live double lives, if you will. They tried to stretch time and creative energy to meet demands of their identities and the needs of their children in their position as mothers. There were times of success for this competition of a life well lived, and then there were times of disappointment and even failures. No one could have explained the complexity of that dual task of motherhood and livelihood, insanity. Our mothers were the center of the Lazy Susan. When things came into alignment with our needs and their responses being matched, it was a beautiful thing. But when life was out of alignment, there were clashes of needs and wants and available energy for appropriate responses. You all have your own stories. You all laughed about meeting in Frankenmuth because there's some familiarity for you. Part of your story was her story too, but only part. So the three faces of Kuan Yin barely begin to describe most of our moms who had many other identities and hats to wear. Their personalities, their identities had a capacity of love. And it's described on the order of service today. Identities and love are multiplied, not divided. So maybe, just maybe, we can all be generous in our kindness of looking back at our own stories and the continuing story we have. Maybe this is going to be the Mother's Day that you'll revisit this complicated relationship. Maybe you can start by realizing that whoever we thought our mothers were or are, they are that and more. Probably individuals that are much more complicated than the caregivers, judges, guides, and hospitality creators that we describe today. Yes, I think I'm going to have to adapt my mother's description of herself with just a little twist. Our mothers, nothing less, but a lot more. So for our mothers, Maya Angelou ends her poem. Mother, I have learned enough now. I know I have learned nearly nothing, however. On this day when mothers are being honored, let me thank you that my selfishness, my ignorance, and even my mockery did not bring you to discard me like a broken doll, which had lost its favor. I thank you that you are still someone who finds in me something to cherish, to admire, and to love. I thank you, Mother, and I love you. And so maybe that's where our hearts and consciousness can continue as we do the healing that needs to be done to be the best people that we can be. These are the kind of days that each of us has a thread and a connection to the concept of motherhood. And these are not the kind of days that all of us celebrate, and we certainly don't acknowledge them in the same way. As Unitarian Universalists, isn't it amazing that you can come in here and then walk out with less guilt if you had guilt when you walked in, or no guilt whatsoever? In my 26 years as in ministry, this has been one of my goals, is to create guiltless communities, because I respect all of you and myself to be motivated by something much greater than guilt, and that is love. So take the love that you have today, whatever it looks like, and whomever you will spend the day with, even out in big mother nature. And take that love. And if you are out in the garden, dig a little hole, throw something in it that represents guilt, and plant it. And we'll see if that grows or not. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and please refer to page 6 for the closing words for the postlude, the closing music, sorry.